What is the purpose of interviews with athletes? The purpose of doing interviews with athletes is to improve their image so they can build a better reputation of themselves, and also to show fans how they feel about the situation. This can include sharing all their concerns and to talk about the game and the pre-match elements. Also, the purpose of interviews is to increase their sponsorship deals through different types of media, such as newspapers, tabloids and red labels. They will display how athletes respond to the questions provided. There's also television, e.g. news channels and sports presenting shows will produce interview, pre-matches and post-match in front of public, which will also build the athlete's reputation. Also, there is radio. Athletes are asked for their opinion on the radio, and this is more of a direct way of showing their emotion without actually having to visualize what they look like. Lastly, there's internet nowadays, which is a modern way of keeping up with interviews, which is apps such as Twitter and Facebook to give younger fans more of an insight on what the athletes have to say. As I said in the last slide, the different types of interview involve newspaper articles, which is less of the athlete talking in person and less of their voice, but more of them responding to questions that have been asked to them. Also, there's the media, such as post-conference match reports where they have to talk about the match and how it went and how they felt. Also, there is blogs, which is the modern way of doing things, such as apps on Facebook and Twitter, where the athletes are asked more on a Q&A basis. And lastly, there's radios, which is more directive and more of the athlete having to say what they feel, which is important because appearance is not one of the factors involved in a radio interview. There's different ways of communicating with the media and others. Firstly, you can use verbal communication, which includes the tone and pace of their voice so that the people listening can hear you. Also, there's making the flow of the interview correct so everyone can keep up with every word that you are saying. Next, there is producing accurate facts to keep everyone interested and intrigued and to make the situation more relevant. Also, to make sure your speech is clear, so no words are misinterpreted or not made accurate. Also, to always keep eye contact with the person who is interviewing you to show that it's formal and that you're interested in what they have to say, and to prove that you respect their questions. Lastly, is using the correct body language during the interview. When you're comparing communication with media and significant others, there's TV compared to radio. On the TV, appearance is a key factor on how you look, because if you look trashy and trampy, you won't want to be interviewed and people won't really be interested in what you're saying. Whereas when you're on the radio, it doesn't matter what you have to look like. Also, on the radio, everything you have to say has to be more precise because people are only listening to your words and nothing else. On the TV, you would have things such as gestures to back you up. Next, there's having an interview with a teammate, which may be different because how you speak to your teammate, there's different ways of structuring it and more of a relationship there, so you're more laid back and you can become yourself in a way. Lastly, having an interview with a manager. This will be more formal as athletes have spent most times with their manager and build some sort of relationship with them, but they're also key to make a good impression under their manager, so also saying the correct things is very pivotal in interviews with your manager. It is important to plan for interviews if you're an athlete, because an athlete has to be sure of what they're saying. If an athlete is not sure of what they're saying, the questions they're going to answer may come across as unprepared and defeat the whole purpose. Also, it may cause controversy, as the athletes may say something negative or something that is against the beliefs of other people. Athletes will also look like they lack intelligence if they don't know what they're talking about and tend to pause a lot and not answer the questions properly and detailed. Also, an athlete may show disinterest from the game, and this may cause them to lose fans and fans to be disloyal towards what they have to do. Lastly, so that the athletes are aware of the time schedules during the interview. If they go on talking too long, they might be cut off, or vice versa. If they haven't prepared for how long it's going to be, they might be stuck at a certain point and feel under pressure. It's important to have a backup plan with your career path. A backup plan is important to athletes because a career may not last forever, so it's important that they have an option of doing something after this finishes. Also, a career may end early, making it difficult for them to achieve what they want in their sport. And this, as a result, can cause depression and various other things. Athletes also may start to become bored if they continue playing a repetitive sport throughout their career, and generally want to look for something else that gives them more freedom and more of a chance to. Also, athletes may start to become bored from their repetitive sport and generally want to look for something that allows them to have more freedom, and may become bored of doing the same thing day in, day out, and want to change in their life so they can have more freedom and look for new goals. Lastly, an athlete is always going to need a form of income. So if their career is finished and they've been paying for their high expensive lifestyle, they might not be able to keep that up unless they've got a backup plan which will ensure they're still getting the income that they need. SWOT, which stands for Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities and Threats, is a study taken by an organisation to highlight all the strengths and weaknesses of the athlete and how they can better themselves. It generally helps to create ideas of where there's an opportunity. For instance, if they're particularly strong in an aspect, they may be able to set goals using their strengths to get there. The threat section is all the obstacles that might be in the way and stopping them from completing all the goals that they want to. Their weaknesses is to highlight what they need to work on and how they can improve in things. And lastly, their opportunities is different places and ways they can create their strengths. For the athlete I'm choosing is Tariq Maisie, whose short-term goal is to be established as a first-team regular at a semi-professional level, making 100 key tackles throughout the season. As a defender, this is important and a way of improving himself and his ability and proving to himself that he can play well at a high level. As a defender, their job is to make tackles, so setting goals for that will give him a target to improve his performance each and every game. His medium-term goal is to achieve success in a semi-professional team level. At the moment, he plays for Rains Park, who is semi-professional, so his aim would be to remain in the first team and keep up making appearances for them while using his short-term goal of making the tackles. His long-term goal would be to make it professionally as a football player and play at a high level, which would be League 2 minimum, where he'll get a certain income and be playing around better performers who have been playing in experienced levels throughout their life. An athlete might need a backup plan, such as Tariq, because Tariq has been playing for a good standard for a long time in his career. So that's one of his strengths and why he would need a backup plan there. Also, a backup plan is made up in case of early injuries, lack of interest, loss of skill, lack of money, controversy, and family problems and pressure. In more detail, early injury, if someone is given an early injury, they're going to need a way of doing something else to continue, maybe in the sport, maybe not, but a career path. If they have a lack of interest in the sport, they'll give up early and need something else to aim for. If they've got a loss of skill, they're going to need also another career path. Controversy could mean assault or racially aggravation and may ban them from being within the sport. Family problems could force them away. Say if they've got a lack of income so they can't pay to play for the clubs and improve on their skill. And lastly, pressure. Pressure might be too big for them to perform at high levels, forcing them to look at a different career path. There are different qualifications needed if they wanted to make it into the different career path, which for Tariq would be coaching. So he would require FA Level 1 coaching to start off with, which would be around £25 per session. And this is the starting block, which allows him to get in the life of coaching. Also, he could plan to go uni and take up the course of sports coaching and study that, which would be a 3-year course costing £9,000. But that would allow him to go into instant coaching at certain sports levels or any low-level team. The barriers are he's already a young, unexperienced coach, and then nowadays people will look for experience in coaching, so he would have to wait maybe possibly quite a long time to get into the coaching industry. Also, the amount of money it costs to go uni is expensive, and if the coaching career doesn't take off or he wanted a different career plan, then it will be seen as a waste of money and a waste of time as well. Lastly, there's loads of coaches out there, so competing for the same role, and many teams, so it's going to be difficult for him to try and achieve this.